Hello everyone, my name is Arisha and I am delighted to be your host for this session. It's a pleasure to welcome you all and I hope you enjoy this exciting event. We are delighted to continue our inspiring journey of learning and innovation with another exceptional speaker joining us all the way from Morocco. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Dr. Chaymae Hamieddine, a distinguished postdoctoral researcher at AI Explain You Science. Her work explores how artificial intelligence can help organizations adopt, innovate, and thrive in an ever changing world. Today, she will share her valuable insights. As a respected member of our AI Explain You Science research family, we are truly honored to have her with us today. Dr. Shimai, a very warm welcome to you. Please turn on your mic, and the virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you, dear. Let me just share my screen. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So, good morning to everyone joining from around the world. Thank you to Dr. Inam and the entire AI Explain You Science team for this wonderful event. It genuinely means a great deal to be part of the Agentic Minds Global Summit. So my name is Chaymae Hamieddine. I'm a postdoctoral fellow. And my research sits at the intersection of AI governance, organizational behavior, and the human condition that determine whether AI systems generate real value or real disappointment. The talk I'm going to give you today emerged directly from my own experience as a researcher working with AI systems. And the question, it starts from it deceptively simple. When we talk about AI agents as research assistants, what does assistant actually mean? Is it a tool, a delegate, a collaborator? The answer to that question shapes everything about how we design, govern, and use these systems. The title I've given to the talk is From Tool to Teammates. So let me start with a provocation. We talk constantly about using AI agents as research assistants, but I want to pause on the word assistant because I think it contains an ambiguity that matters enormously. There's a spectrum here. At one end is a tool, something that executes commands with no understanding of why. A search engine is a tool, a spell checker is a tool. You tell it what to do, it does it, and the responsibility for the outcome sits entirely with you. In the middle is an assistant, something that interprets your intent, adapts to context, fills in gaps intelligently. This is where most current AI agents sits. At the other end is a teammate, something that contributes judgment, raises questions, and shares epistemic responsibility for the work. This is what genuinely agentic AI aspires to be. The reason this distinction matters is not semantic. It changes what you should build, how you should govern it, and what obligations you have toward the work that comes out of it. Today, I want to argue that if we want AI agents to be genuine research partners, genuine teammates, we need to design and govern them very differently from how we're designing them now. So, let me diagnose the problem more precisely. I think there are four distinct failure modes in how researchers currently use AI agents. The first is delegation without specification. We hand tasks to AI agents without being clear about what epistemic standards apply. Summarize the literature is not a specification. What level of synthesizes? What quality of reasoning? What kind of claims are acceptable? Agents will always fill those gaps. The question is whether they fill them in ways we'd endorse if we knew what they were doing. The second is trust without governance. Many researchers accept AI agents' outputs without any structured mechanism for questioning or verifying them. There's no equivalent of a peer review process, no contestability mechanism, no structured way to say, I don't trust this specific output, and here's why. That absence is a governance failure. The third is efficiency. Without accountability, we measure agent value in time saved. But speed and accuracy are not the same thing as scholarly rigor. An agent that helps you produce more papers faster is not necessarily helping you produce better research. The fourth is adoption without integration. AI agents get bold onto exciting research workflows rather than designed into them. The result is that the agent is always slightly misaligned with what the researcher actually needs because it was never given a defined role. My argument is that all four of these failure modes have the same root. We haven't thought carefully enough about what we want AI agents to be. So, if those are the failure modes, what is the alternative? What would a genuine AI research partner actually look like? I think there are four defining characteristics. The first is epistemic alignment. A genuine research partner understands not just what you're asking about, but what kind of reasoning the task requires. Literature review is different from hypothesis generation, which is different from methodological critique. A research partner calibrates its approach to the epistemic requirements of the task, not just the surface instruction. The second is what I call productive uncertainty. A genuine research partner doesn't just tell you what it knows, it tells you what it doesn't know, flags contexts claimed, and explicitly distinguish between confident outputs and speculative ones. Uncertainty is not a failure mode, it's information. An agent that projects false confidence is not a partner, it's a liability. The third is iterative co-construction. A research partner doesn't execute a request and return a result. It's engaged in a dialogue through which the research develops, proposing framings, questioning assumptions, identifying gaps, suggesting revisions. This is qualitatively different from request response interaction. The fourth is accountable output. A genuine research partner produces contributions that are traceable, contestable, and governed. You can see how it reached its conclusion, challenge that conclusion, and override it when your judgment says the agent is wrong. A partner you cannot question is not a partner. It's an oracle, and oracles are dangerous in research context. Here's the arguments I want to make as forcefully as I can. Agentic AI without governance is not research assistance. It is research outsourcing. And those are not the same thing. When you outsource research to an AI agent without governance structures, several things happen. And none of them are good. Epistemic responsibility becomes ambiguous. When a paper is partly produced by an agent and there's no structured record of which judgment came from, where the author's epistemic responsibility for the claims in that paper becomes genuinely unclear. Errors compound invisibility. Agentic systems are multi-step agents, uh, call other agents, pass outputs between stages, build on each other's work. Without structured checkpoints, a small error at step one becomes an undetected assumption at step five. There is no mechanism to detect when the agent is confidently wrong. AI agents are often more confident in proportion to how wrong they are. Without contestability mechanism, without a structured way to say, I need to see your reasoning here, confident wrongness passes undetected. Accountability dissolves. If the agent did it, who is responsible? That question doesn't have a good answer without governance structures that designate accountable humans. And the most subtle consequence, the researcher becomes a prompter rather than a thinker. The cognitive work of research, the hard, slow, uncertain work of developing an original argument, gets delegated to the agent, and something important is lost. I want to share something from my own research that I believe applies directly to the agentic AI research context. more directly than I initially anticipated when I developed it. My framework, the socio-technical AI integration framework, was built to explain why AI adoption fails in organizations even when the technology performs as designed. The consistent answer: the organizational conditions surrounding the AI system are not built to receive and govern it. Every dimension of the framework maps precisely onto the agentic research context. CRC, constructive resistance capacity, tells us that researcher resistance to an agent's output is not a failure of adoption. It is epistemically intelligent behavior. Build infrastructure to capture that signal, not suppress it. AI-ready cultural conditions tells us the research context need to be psychologically safe for questioning AI outputs. If researchers feel they cannot challenge an agent's output, errors propagate. Algorithmic trust architecture is precisely the governance layer for agentic research systems. Layered explainability, contestability, accountability, chains, human override protocols. Algorithmic equity infrastructure reminds us that agents trained on biased corpora will systemically underrepresent certain perspectives. That is a research quality issue, not just an ethics issue. So the framework was built for organizations, but the agentic research context is an organization, and these conditions apply. Let me get practical. One of the most useful things you can do to improve how AI agents work in your research is to stop giving them tasks and start giving them roles. The distinction matters because different roles carry different epistemic stakes and require different governance. The first role is the scout. The scout operates in information space, searching, retrieving, mapping, monitoring. The epistemic stakes are relatively low. The scout is not drawing conclusions, it's surfacing raw material. Scout governance requires transparency about sources, coverage, and gaps. I searched these databases with these terms, and here's what I found. And here's what I did not find. A scout that doesn't tell you about its blind spots is dangerous. The second role is the analyst. The analyst operates in reasoning space, synthesizing, identifying patterns, comparing across studies. The epistemic stakes are higher here because the analyst is making inferences. Analyst governance requires that reasoning chains are visible and contestable. You need to be able to see the steps from evidence to conclusion and challenge any of them. The third role is the critic. The critic operates in judgment space, stress testing, arguments, surfacing assumptions, identifying counter evidence. This is the highest epistemic stakes role, with the most demanding governance. A critic agent should be explicitly designed to be adversarial. Its job is to find weaknesses, not confirm strengths. A critic that agrees with everything is useless. The key insight in this: the same agent architecture that works beautifully as a scout will be inadequate as a critic. These roles require genuinely different design and governance choices. I want to go deep on one design principle that I think is more important than any other: contestability. The most important feature you can build into a research agent is not accuracy, it is not speed, it is the ability to be wrong out loud, trustably, in a way that a researcher can detect incorrect. First, confidence calibration. Agents should always express the degree of certainty behind their outputs. And that confidence should be genuinely calibrated, not systematically overconfident. Second, source transparency. Every claim should be traceable, so its specific source, not the literature suggests, but which papers, which findings with that caveats. Third, Explicit uncertainty surfacing. Agents should be designed to proactively flag what they don't know, where evidence is mixed, and where their training data may be limited. This is a feature, not a failure mode. Fourth, a structured challenge interface. Researchers should have a formal mechanism for querying agent reasoning. Show me your chain of inference from this evidence to this conclusion, not as debugging, as scholarship. Contestability is not about mistrusting AI, it is about doing research properly. Now, let me look forward because the real frontier of agentic AI in research is not single agents, it's multi agent systems, networks of agents with differentiated roles, passing work between each other, collectively producing research output. The possibilities are genuinely exciting. Imagine a research workflow where a scout agent continuously monitors new publications in your field. An analyst synthesizes relevant findings in real time, and a critic tests your current arguments against new evidence. All available when you sit down to write. The technical components exist. The question is the design and governance. But the open problems are significant, and I want to be honest about them. Propagation is the first. In a multi-agent pipeline, a mistake at step 1 becomes an undetected assumption at step 5. The compounding effect is much harder to detect than a single agent error. We have no theory of multi-agent epistemic responsibility. If 3 agents contributed to a conclusion, which agent is responsible for which claim? This has real governance implications. Confirmation dynamics worry me particularly. Agents communicating with each other may reinforce each other's errors rather than correcting them. There's an AI analog of groupthink that we don't yet know how to design against. I want to be clear, these are not reasons not to develop multi-agent research systems. They are reasons to develop them carefully with governance built in from the start. So let me be practical. Here are 6 things you can do differently. Not in some future research utopia, but this week. 1. Assign roles, not tasks. Before you start an agent interaction, decide explicitly, is this a scout, analyst, or critic task? That decision shapes what you ask for, what you trust, and what you verify. 2. Build your contestability habit. For every agent output you use, ask, what is this agent not telling me? Make it a practice, not an afterthought. 3. Demand source transparency. Never accept a synthesized claim without tracing it back to specific sources. Train yourself and your agents to always provide the chain of evidence. 4. Document your agent interactions. Keep a research log of how agents contributed, not just for reproducibility, but because that log is methodologically significant information. 5. Create your own override protocol. Decide in advance under what conditions you will override agents' outputs based on your own judgment. Make it explicit and specific. Not when it feels wrong, but when the agent cannot provide a traceable source for a factual claim. 6. Treat agent errors as data. When an agent gets something wrong, and it will, of course, analyze why. That analysis is how you develop as a researcher working with these systems. I want to raise 4 harder questions before I close. Questions I don't have fully worked out answers to, but that I think the research community needs to take seriously. The first is disclosure. Readers of research deserve to know when AI agents made substantive contribution to the analytical work. And not just that AI tools were used for editing, but what role agents played in synthesis and arguments development, We don't yet have adequate norms for this. The second is epistemic integrity. Researchers bear responsibility for what they publish. That responsibility does not transfer to an AI agent. If you accept an agent synthesized without adequate verification and it contains errors, those are your errors. In the scholarly sense, that matters. The third is equity of access. If AI agents become powerful research accelerators, and the evidence suggests they will, their unequal distribution across research communities will create new forms of scholarly inequity, just like what Dr. Rita said. Researchers at well resourced institutions will have access to better agents. The field needs to think about what this means for whose knowledge gets produced and amplified. The fourth is the authorship question. AI agents cannot be authors, but researchers who use agents without adequate governance, without genuinely taking responsibility for what the agents contributed, are not fully the authors of what they publish either. We're between two frameworks and we need new ones. So let me be specific about where I think research attention is most needed. How should AI agent contribution to research be disclosed, attributed, and governed? We have norms for citing human co-authors. We do not yet have adequate norms for disclosing AI agent contribution to analytical work. Two, what governance structures maximize the epistemic value of agentic research systems? This is an empirical question that my own research is directly oriented toward. But we need empirical studies across disciplines and institutional contexts. Three, how do multi-agent research systems propagate and amplify errors? This is urgent because multi-agent systems are being deployed faster than we understand their failure modes. What is the relationship between researcher AI literacy and research quality? I suspect this relationship is strong and discipline specific, but we lack good data. How do we ensure that agentic research tools serve knowledge equity rather than undermine it? This requires policy, institutional design attention, not just technical solutions. So these are the questions I'm working on. I hope some of you are working on them too. And I would genuinely welcome the conversation. So let me close with the arguments I want you to take away. The question is not whether AI agents have a role in research. They do, and that role will only grow. The evidence for what they can contribute through literature, scanning, synthesize, critical dialogue, and much more is real and compelling. The question is whether we give them the right role, a role that is defined precisely enough to be governed, a role that preserves the epistemic responsibility that makes research, a role that makes the researcher more powerful as a thinker, not less. And whether we build the governance structures, the accountability mechanism, the transparency requirements, the accountability change, the override protocols that make those roles genuinely productive rather than just apparently efficient. So, from tool to teammate is not a trajectory that happens automatically. It is something we have to design deliberately, carefully, and with a clear sense of what we're actually trying to achieve. So, thank you, everyone, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chaymae, for this wonderful and insightful session. It is always a great honor and a moment of pride to learn from our own AI Explain You Science research family. Dear participants, this is a great opportunity to interact with our speaker. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them. On behalf of the entire AI Explain You Science team, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again in our future events. Have a wonderful day, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, We are now moving to our next session with Rukayat Balugan. This session will take place on a separate Google Meet link. The link has been shared in your WhatsApp group as well as in the chat box. Please join the new meeting room at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your cooperation and we look forward to welcoming you to the next session.